classic, isn't it? Like to call the meeting to order, show all council members are in attendance, and would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tonight we have one public hearing. If you'd like to address the council, please step to the microphone, give your name and address for the record. This is time and place for a public hearing as advertised on the matter of Resolution 17-214, a resolution to continue the public hearing on the disposal of property legally described as Lot 1, Franklin Heights Subdivision, to Michael Ranch DDS, PLLC, until October 9th, 2017 at 7 p.m. as proof of publication on file.
Yes, it is.
Have any written protests been received?
None received.
Is there anyone here tonight wishing to speak to the council in regards to this matter? Seeing none, what's the council's pleasure?
I was trying to remember how we're supposed to word it. Are we going to just?
Well, we had the suggestion that we take no action,
Yeah.
which I guess means none of us make a motion.
What's it?
All right.
And just let it die.
So without a motion or a second, that resolution dies and will rise again maybe at a future date.
Maybe.
Turn it over to the clerk.
Ordinance 6305 to amend zoning map as adopted by reference in section 15.02.070 by rezoning the northwest quarter, southwest quarter of section 1774-43, except the state right-of-way along that part of southwest quarter of section 1774-43, except state right-of-way and railroad lying north of the railroad right-of-way from A2 Parks, Estates, and Agricultural District to General Industrial District as defined in Chapter 15.21.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Can we start using regular addresses? Is that an option? So we know where, can we put both in there?
You can do both.
Yeah.
You could do both, probably.
I would make
If it has an address.
the recommendation that if it has an address, we start using a physical address and the legal address.
Because we have to use the legal, don't we?
Yeah, we have to use the legal, but we could do is put the parcel numbers in there as well, because then even if there isn't a formal city address, you could pull it up on the.
If we could put parcel number, and then if there is a formal city address, that would be great.
Good idea.
Well, because, I mean, a lot of people don't.
Right.
It's just
We,
helpful, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
during the study session, we also had some clarification, or I guess just pointing out that this is an action only on zoning, does not impact the terms of the operation of the business or the enterprise once it prepares to undertake operations. So we will deal with that at a later date.
Other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6306 to amend Chapter 15.15 Commercial District by amending Section 15.15.030 Conditional Uses to include warehousing and distribution limited.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6307, an ordinance to amend Section 3.44 pawnbrokers.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yes. Yeah.
You can come.
Dave, give name and address for the record. And they want to capture you on the recorder.
David Drake, 2909 6th Avenue, Council Bluffs. My name's David Drake. I'm the owner of Metro Pawn and Load at 3011 West Broadway. I have to wonder why pawn shops are getting singled out of these new electronic reporting laws, as pawn shops are not the only business in town that buy secondhand merchandise. I know there's a secondhand dealer's law in Council Bluffs governing the buying and selling of used items by secondhand dealers, and would hope that they too will have to do electronic and police hold periods, not just the pawn shops. Unfortunately, there are businesses that should fall under the secondhand law that somehow skirt under the law. Some jewelry stores in town buy gold and diamonds, and I believe all of them are being required to report. I know that currently gun shops inside the city are not required to report firearm purchases to the police to check if they might be stolen. This makes no sense. If anything was to get checked, it should certainly be firearms. As a federal firearms license holder, the only requirement that they log the guns into the log book and back out. The log is just a record book and is not reported to anyone. Federal law does not require any type of checks to see if the firearms are stolen or if the seller's a felon. We follow the federal law, but are also required to report the transactions to the police. I mention this because it demonstrates how pawn shops, who are already required to report more information on all transactions, not just firearms transactions, are being targeted to spend even more time and money on the reporting process, while some businesses buying and selling used items, even guns, mind you, report nothing at all to local authorities. This, while not only being unfair, most importantly, leaves gaping holes in a system designed to catch the wrongdoers and to get stolen property back to the rightful owner. Obviously, I support reporting every transaction to law enforcement. We have been taking customer photos, getting ID information and fingerprints since we opened 15 years ago, long before customer photos were even mandatory. If you ask any of the officers that I have worked with in the past on cases involving stolen property, they will all tell you that I have been most cooperative in providing information and assistance them in any way possible. If we as pawnbrokers must spend the money and time to report, it only makes sense that other Council Bluffs businesses that buy or trade in secondhand items do so also. Today, more than ever, there are a lot of ways that criminals can sell stolen items. With the availability of the internet, they can use websites like eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Swap, and apps such as OfferUp, just to name a few. None of these have any kind of police regulation. I understand the want and the need for digital reporting, and I agree that in this day and age, it makes sense. Although one would think taking photos, scanning IDs, getting fingerprints should be an easy thing, these processes all take time and cost money. We were told by the police that this would make their job much easier and less burdensome, and I understand that. But that comes at a cost of making our jobs much more time-consuming and costing us more to do the business. We have all been told that Leads Online, that's what this is about, is a free service to the business owners. That is true if you would only be using their program. The problem is their program and our business management software are two separate systems. To get the free route, we would have to jump back and forth between programs while waiting on a customer. This would be a nightmare and time wasted and open the door for more errors. My point of sale and pawn software, which is used nationally by many pawn shops, originally cost over $5,000, and it costs $1,500 a year in maintenance fees. That doesn't include computers, hardware, or maintenance costs. The software is connected to every aspect of my business operation, including pawn management, inventory management, point of sales, firearm logbook, along with my financial and tax reportings. It also generates the information which I supply to local law enforcement. To get up and running for the electronic data transfer for the police, I have recently purchased 2 ID scanners, 2 fingerprint readers, along with the software modules to integrate my software with the Leads Online, so we didn't have to deal with trying to do things on 2 separate systems. I purchased a Leads Online module so that I could upload the collected data and turn it over efficiently. This has cost me at the store over $4,000 and added a $300 yearly maintenance fee. Without doing this, I would have ended up spending even more money on additional labor requiring the use of the free system. I know this may not sound like a lot of money to many of you, but to a small business such as mine and other ones here, it really can make the difference between whether I am able to show a profit at the year's end or I lose money. When I asked the police department why they were asking for all the particular data that they are, I was told that they were following what Omaha was doing. They've added, I don't know if you know, they've added a lot of different requirements to this new ordinance. When I talked to Leads Online staff, I was told Omaha was one of very few places that actually require a copy of the pledger's signature. What good does a copy of a signature do? Can the police ID a person with a signature? We're already getting an ID of the photo, or a photo ID, a photo of the pledger themselves, a digital fingerprint for that very purpose. Most people don't sign the same way every time. Many people scribble. If a person was committing a crime, would they really sign with their correct signature? If something comes back stolen, certainly the prosecuting attorney would need the complete contract with the signature. These contracts are on file at our shop. In fact, we have every contract since we opened 15 years ago. Many times the police will send an ID tech to take photos of a stolen item at the time. They could easily copy the actual pawn contract to get the signature. If not, or something else would arise, we could email or fax or copy the complete pawn ticket. I understand this, to summarize, the system, which is said to be free to businesses, is not free to businesses at all. I understand this ordinance is needed to simplify the data collection process for the police, and I am sure it will certainly be passed. I am here today to ask that you lighten the burden on business owners as much as possible. For example, I have already discussed why the copy of the signature is redundant and would not be needed. A second area I asked to look at is the elimination of the requirement to photograph every item that comes in on a pawn or a purchase. We already report the serial number, and we put a detailed description of each item when it comes in. All this information is transmitted to the police. As currently written, this ordinance would require us to take photos of each item. Taking photos of each item will be time-consuming and costly. In some cases, customers bring in multiple items, sometimes 10, 15, or more. If it takes only 2 minutes per photo, it could easily add 15 to 30 minutes per transaction. This would not only be burdensome, but time-consuming and costly. Lastly, I request that you administer the new ordinance at least across all businesses registered in the city which are engaged in buying and selling used items, especially firearms dealers, so that you are not only singling out the pawn businesses. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight, and I hope you will consider my viewpoints and make the changes I have requested. Whatever the outcome, I want you to know that we have always had a good working relationship with the police, and we plan to continue to do so. Thank you for your time.
David, before you sit down, just in case somebody has some questions.
Yeah, I have at least one. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Melissa.
no, I was just to say that's good feedback, because I wouldn't have thought about some of those other options. And this is on the first reading, which is good,
Yeah.
because then we can still make,
Okay.
you know, I would be open to looking into if we can make some changes on it.
Okay.
Go- Sharon, do you want to?
Yeah, I just, because I don't know what all the laws are. The second, we don't have a registration process in Council Bluffs for businesses. So, you know, we would have, I don't know how we would track them down because we don't have a business license or anything. But my question is, I know that, and I know this because I was burglarized several years ago, that when your merchandise is found in a pawn shop, you do have to buy it back. You guys go through all of this in order to follow the laws. And but my question is that you don't get charged with buying stolen merchandise, but a secondhand retailer, like on the Facebook market and all that stuff, or any of those other businesses that sell secondhand, wouldn't they be charged with the receipt of stolen merchandise?
I
think
can't
that
answer
the
that.
ordinance we have, you know, it helps to exempt you from that liability of having those charges brought, but I don't know if it applies to the other ones. I thought maybe
Well,
it
I'm
would.
not so much talking about the Facebook and the Craigslist and the face-to-face type things. I'm talking about actual businesses
So like,
that, like, there are a few gun shops in town. There's also jewelry stores, the mall jewelry stores. You can go into the mall jewelry store and sell your jewelry. They'll buy it for scrap gold.
Quite a few of them have second
So,
homes or something.
and there's a few other gold places that'll buy scrap gold. I know some of the cash advanced places will buy scrap gold. I don't know if they're following under this
Yeah,
rule.
and I don't know.
Part of it also deals with restrictions that on us, either on a state or federal level. For example, our ability in our state to regulate guns as a municipality is pretty narrow.
Well, you're not regulating the gun, you're
Well-
regulating, you're looking at whether or not the item is stolen. That's what we're talking about.
I would tend to agree with you, but there'd be a lot of folks who would disagree with you on that one. And I'm not so sure we have that power
So
in
you can
Iowa.
put that power to me,
I
require that, but not to the other shop?
well, there's no Second Amendment for pawn shops. You see, guns are a more difficult topic.
So I need to separate my guns out of my pawn shop and open a gun shop in half of my business?
Well,
And you
I'm
won't
not going to
regulate
give
that
you
part?
advice, but I hear what you're saying.
I'm not gonna
I hear what you're
skirt
saying.
the
I'm just
law.
saying that there are different things that we can regulate. Some things that are easier to regulate than others, and there's certain things that are harder, and probably it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes it doesn't. That it's harder for us to regulate on a local level. But part of it too is, that tonight's vote. I hear what you're saying about the difficulties of more regulation. I do. But tonight's main thing is about trying to move, as part of that direction, trying to move more and more things to digital.
I agree.
Okay, and
And I-
that's
and I
really,
don't have a
tonight,
problem
I
with
take
that.
your larger point, I do. And part of it
And
too
we're
is.
already doing that. We're already sending all of our
Sure.
stuff digitally.
And part of it too is, in court when you're trying to prove up things, and I've experienced this myself. I haven't done much with criminal law when somebody steals things, but I've done some, especially in my early days. And I will say that photos of things have a lot more of the probative value. That they're worth a lot more
Well,
evidence-wise.
I'm not disagreeing that. That's
So
why
that's
the
the
ID
reason.
tech comes down and takes the photo.
Sure. And so
of
part of
the-
the
of the
reason
stolen
is,
item.
if there's a photo of it, then we don't need to take someone's word for it, because somebody could be lying, or far more often, they're mistaken. Though sometimes people just out and out lie too. But
mean,
whereas
we
a
have
photo can't lie. Well,
I mean, we have people that come in and say that this particular drill is,
Sure.
and I'm sure they do too. This drill is mine. I can tell by the scratches on it.
Sure.
It's a DeWalt drill. There are probably 50,000 of them.
oh no,
And they say this drill is theirs. They can tell by looking at it.
no,
Okay.
I
Funny
get you.
thing is, their drill got stolen two weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that drill's been on my shelf for 2 years.
No, I agree with
So-
you, but it's just a little bit more evidence. Plus, if somebody signs a different name than their own, that's another thing that they've broken. It's another way to get bad behavior punished, because it's yet
Well, we're
another
going to
crime.
have the copies of that. That's what I'm trying to explain. That's going to be on the contract.
Sure.
If I just write my name on a paper,
Yeah.
take a picture of that, there's nothing to go with that. We could have taken that photo of that guy's signature
Right.
off of something we found in the parking lot.
Well,
Okay?
if you
But what I'm
didn't,
saying is it's not going to coincide with the actual contract. The contract
So they're-
has all the details
They're
of the
signing a contract.
purchase.
This is stating you just have to take a picture of the signature.
That's all they want. It's ridiculous.
well,
Well,
but you
if
you
they
have
do
to
that-
tag it. You just don't put it in a folder divorced from all the other records, do you? I mean, it has to be tied to the contract or to the photos or the purchase. I mean, your software ties those together, I assume.
Well,
Or how else would you ever put it back together?
this is what I'm trying to explain.
Yeah.
To do something like that, it's going to take additional time.
Right.
It's
Sure.
going to take additional resources.
I can't disagree
It's
with
going to
that.
cost more money to put out the thing for something that isn't going to do a photo of just a signature.
Right.
Well, but
That photo could be, like I said, I could take a piece of paper you signed,
yeah.
take your picture, and say, you sold that item to me. Okay? Well, what good is it going to do? You need the signature on the contract.
Right.
They're not
It's just
getting
a
the whole
picture.
contract. All they're getting is a picture of a signature.
But they'll have you in your business
We're giving
practice.
them the driver's license that we scan,
Sure.
a photo of the person,
Sure.
and a fingerprint.
But if I sign the wrong name, I've committed yet another crime they
But
can nail me on.
He's got the
Yeah.
contract. He just
I
know, but
he
right
just doesn't
now
want
we
to have to
don't-
take the picture.
I know, but now we
He can
don't.
still produce the hard copy.
I know,
Yeah.
but the police get it now. Would get it now.
The police don't
automatic.
get the hard copy, though. They're
No,
not
but-
getting the hard copy.
No, but they'll get the electronic signatures. I
But it's not
understand.
going to do any good.
I know
Oh,
what you're saying.
well, I disagree with that.
Did Leads Online say, I know you said that Omaha's one of the only ones
One of
doing
the
the
few.
signature. Was there, is it typical for the photo too for them? I mean, was that the main thing that was different, or do
I
you know?
mainly discussed with them at the time, this was a month ago, when we started to switch over. I mainly discussed with them the signature and asked them, and they said, oh, they're going to require that. I said, well, they're copying off of Omaha. And they said, well, she said, yeah, that's one of the few municipalities that I think require a signature.
And that's one of the difficult things, you know, we're a city 11 times smaller. If they go stricter and we don't, guess where all the people
I thought
stealing
Council
stuff are
Bluffs
gonna
was
go?
unlike anywhere else, on purpose. So now you're telling me that we have to follow them because,
No,
I will tell you, David.
no, I'm
and
just
you
saying
know
the
this,
economies of
you know,
scale. You're gonna go where it's
great
easier
point,
to
but
sell stolen
it's
stuff.
a metropolitan area where criminals don't recognize the borders, and
oh,
so
do not.
I understand.
do
we
not.
need to make, let's do this.
It's the
and
first reading. We
If
can-
other people don't have questions, I'm just
I think
texting
there's
that.
one more
Yeah,
gentleman wants
yeah,
to get
yeah,
up.
perfect. And I'm
you for your time.
texting the chief now. We'll have somebody from the police department come next meeting, and please come back and tell us.
I actually had talked to the captain up there, and I asked him a month ago, and I just found out about this last week. I asked him a month ago what city attorney was going to be drafting any of the new laws, because I wanted to ask him what the signature was going to actually do for them.
Yeah.
And so it's more to me what the city attorney is going to actually do with that.
But the officer may have some explanation as to why the signature is important, because I'm sure we don't have people laying awake saying, let's create a whole bunch of information that's irrelevant, but we'll find out. And please come back, so I know you will. I know you will.
Yeah.
Good discussion here, and what I heard Mr. Drake say is that, you know, he understands the need and wants to cooperate on this. I also hear him asking, what about these other businesses that also have the potential for selling secondhand or consignment goods or whatever, if the objective behind the ordinance is to help control crime and identify wrongdoers, then I think that some further study on this is probably a good idea, because that's the big ultimate effort of all this, is try to get a handle and address property crimes. To that end, Mr. Mayor, I think it would be useful if perhaps Mr. Wade and the chief or representatives could maybe meet with some of these folks, kind of get the technical aspects, and they might be helped in crafting a ordinance that would meet this broader objective of reaching out and helping us work with everybody who has the potential for laying their hands mistakenly or otherwise on these property.
We don't want to take stolen merchandise.
Oh, understood.
It's the first,
Luckily, we take very small amount of it. I mean, if I would ever take some from somebody, lock them out of our system, and I never take it again.
Right.
You know, so our objective is also not to do it, but we also have to do it efficiently.
So that's kind of my point, is that you guys are the experts in dealing with these types of questions. Might help the city and the police to probably get some good ideas how to handle other types of property transactions, so that we can do a better job of cataloging and tracking these types of things. So when people suffer loss, we can help solve the crime and make those people whole again.
You can come. Do you want to come?
My name is Steve Burnsides, address 2385 Avenue Amway, Council Bluffs. I'm one of the partners in Brown Loans. We've been in business 6 years, something like that. We took over the old shop. Go back to the signature. I can clarify some things. That signature, Your loan is completed with the signature. All we are doing is taking a picture of the signature. I told them when they talked to me, our pond detective, Detective Rich Staley, says it doesn't coordinate with anything. It does stay with Leads Online, because we take a photo, it goes right with that customer, goes to the reporting. There's like 5 or 6 things that go to Leads Online.
Okay.
Okay, what we're trying to get at is the signature's not required, because if you need the hard copy, we can fax it over to, we can do whatever. We can make a copy, they can stop by, and you can get the hard copy. The signature's there. Also, a gentleman pointed out, which I already knew, when you scan their ID, their signature's on their ID. That is their, to me, official signature. You ought to see some that we get just scribble. They're in and out, that's it. I'm getting that way, because my name's longer, and I'm just getting tired of writing it. But this signature thing is crucial to us, because we can't take a photo of the signature until the loan is completed, because the loan's completed after he signs it, he gets his money, he walks out. I go back into the program, take a photo of it, attach it to his file. That's where the part, it's getting a little repetitive. Enough on the signature. It's no cost to us. Police department gave us 2 cameras, 2 fingerprint scanners. Guess what? Not compatible with our software. So we had to buy our own. I got a little better deal than him. I spent about $3,100 with but I copied everything he did. He's got it going. But my maintenance fee went up. We're up around $1,500 a year also. Problem with their cameras is you can only hook one up to our computer at a time. We tried it on Dave's, we tried it on mine. Our camera has to be for our system. In order for us to have that, I had to buy new cameras. Not these $7 ones that the Council Bluffs Police Department gave us. And they were $7. I looked them up. Ours were about $99. The software module that comes with it, that was very expensive. The fingerprint scanners will not work. Doesn't matter. I even bought an extra because they only supplied one. I got 2 stations. I bought my own, then I found out I spent money. It was gone. So we got that upgraded. We are doing exactly what the police department wants. Captain Wedham, that's who we talked to. I've got it on voicemail. The signature part, he does not want us to go and buy the signature, the electronic signature pad. He says it doesn't work. They've dealt with it over and over. They wear out. He says, it's on the email, or on the voicemail. He says, forget it, don't use it. The part about the secondhand stores, they do report. I don't know how sufficiently they report, but they do report. I go to gun shows here locally, and everything I do is, I told my partners, we're doing everything above board, and we're going by strictly the law. I probably call my ATF agent once a week with a question. Just the way it is. That's how we do business. Dave does the same thing. At these gun shows, and they're taking in used firearms. They're turning around and selling them that day. We have to sit on them for 30 days. They go through the background check. Why don't they have to do that? I have no reason in Council Bluffs it should be a level playing field.
That's federal law. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's federal.
What is?
That federal law, the gun show loophole, so-called.
Well, it's not just gun shows. They can walk into the shop and do the same thing.
But that's not something we have power over, just so you know.
What do you mean? It's federal law that,
Well, that's federal law. We don't have power over
But
that.
they can resell it the same day?
Yeah, it's the gun show exception. Yeah.
well, what if it's not a gun show? What if it's in their shop just like it is in mine? They do
Off the
that
top of my
too.
head, I'm certainly no expert in the gun laws, but I do know there is the so-called gun show exception in the federal legislation.
I don't do it.
Yeah, we as a city
Matt,
don't. We don't have.
Well, the gun show's in the city limits.
Yeah, but we're within the United States, and D.C. trumps us.
Okay, I understand that. If that were the case,
Yeah.
you're making us do it. The only difference is we loan money, and I understand that, and that's part of the ordinance,
And
that
that's
we
how-
loan money.
and that's
But
the
they're
difference.
buying with no background check.
Yeah.
A criminal could walk into his store, sell him a gun. You know how many times we've stopped somebody from getting a firearm in the last 5 years? About 10 times.
I agree
it's
with you,
like-
the exception is crazy, and I think a lot of
Well,
people
can we
respectfully
do-
disagree with
Can
me.
we do
But
something about it?
we can on this body. I just want to be very straight with you. I think that exception's crazy. The vast majority of people, I think, locally, at least the folks I talk to, disagree with me profoundly on that, and I respect that. But I agree with you. It is a crazy exception.
The only gun show loophole I see is a private sale. I'm there, I'm FFL, I have to do background checks. Everybody said, well, he got this because I didn't do the background check. Nix does the background checks.
Sure.
And our police, or our sheriff department does the permits. So they've already done the background check.
Sure.
So that has, to me, has no bearing on the gun show loophole.
Okay.
One other thing, Sharon, you're wrong.
Well, I was asking a question because
No,
I don't
about-
know the answer.
About one thing. They don't have to buy their merchandise back. It changed in 2014. It's Iowa. It's in the
Oh,
Iowa-
really? So
Yes.
you have-
They-
you guys
we're
end
out
up-
the
Do you
money.
bear the loss? You bear the
Really?
loss? I didn't know that. You bear the loss? If you
pawn
have to
shop.
give it
Yeah,
back?
we have to bear the loss. See, that's
Okay.
something else too, guys. I
I wasn't aware of that.
had a
wasn't
firearm
either.
come in, and it was stolen about 6 years ago now from Idaho. It's a nice revolver. I was going to make a ton of money on it. Well, I lost 150 plus shipping to Idaho, and I know what happened there. Usually, here, what happens here, you have to be convicted in order to get their item back.
Yeah,
That's usually how Rich explains it to me.
yeah.
Well, they're good old boys. They just said, we want it back. We want it back now. It cost you. I did squeeze them out for the shipping. I did get my shipping. It's
boy.
like $87 to ship, and it has to be next day air.
Yeah,
That's federal law.
yeah.
So, but anyway, thanks for your time, guys. It's just, it's really frustrating when you see the guy down the street, and they go back and forth. They hit my spot, they hit his. They'll go to Bear Arms. I don't care about mentioning names. Bear Arms is one. They're one of the biggest that buys the used stuff and turns around and flips it that day. I can't do that. And I'm buying
That
it.
is weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely worth us looking
He's
into before the
involving
next.
Well, you know,
lending
I
money, which
appreciate
gives
the
us
time and
controls.
stuff,
It's a
and-
state function, whereas guns are a federal.
Yeah. Well, it's the first reading. I think we can all, I think you,
Well,
obviously
no,
you guys
that's-
want to work with the police
That's why Dave
department.
and I are here. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
Well,
appreciate you
work
guys
with
coming.
us.
we talk to each other daily. I mean, we're,
Well, if there are ways to make, to accomplish the same goals and to be less burdensome, I want to be clear that I'd be supportive of that. I don't think I've yet to come across this where we're just crazy-eyed wanting to put in regulations just to do it. Now, that's not to say there aren't some regulations that I think are
guys,
overbroad or
we're doing
unnecessary.
we're doing exactly what the police
But
department wants.
I wouldn't say that we are by any means one of the worst cities by far in having a ridiculous amount of regulation. I don't agree with all of them, to be clear, but
Guys, I've been down to
other
Missouri,
places.
and there is no regulation. You walk in, you
Well-
can buy a handgun. You don't have to have nothing.
Sure.
But I don't do that.
Sure.
It's just not my time.
No.
But anyway, thanks for your time,
You
guys.
bet. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for bringing
Yeah.
it to our attention. Anyone else? Anyone from the council?
I think we maybe take some time after
Do we
this.
have a motion? We don't have a motion, do we?
Oh, no, we don't yet. Well,
We do have a motion and a second.
We
Yeah, we
have?
do,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. Anyone from the
yeah.
council?
I would like to look into it just a little farther to see if there is a way we can kind of make it maybe slightly more even before, but like I said, it's just the first reading, so we can still.
If Rich Staley wants to contact us,
Is-
we'll work with them and.
Well, as well as I want to hear the police justification
Yeah.
for it, because I my perspective from like a legal perspective and having prosecuted some very, very minor things early in my career, but in Iowa, but I want to hear the people who enforce it every day.
Rich and Captain Wedeman.
Yeah. I want to hear their current
Carmody,
perspective
Yeah.
Email
on
still.
it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mayor. And Dick, I realize that this isn't your package, but when talking with the chief about this, if we could get a copy of the draft ordinance changes line in, line out, so we could see what's changed, just for clarity, that would be helpful also. But thank you for that, Mayor. I appreciate your outreach to the chief.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? And again, this is first reading, so don't have a heart attack if they approve it on this one. We're going to talk about it and get all those answers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6308, to amend the zoning map by reference in section 15.02.070 by rezoning lots 1 through 4 New Horizon subdivision replat 2 from R1 Single Family Residential District to R3 Low Density Multifamily Residential District, and to rezone proposed lots 5 through 36 and outlots A through C from R1 District to R2 Two Family Residential District as defined in chapters 15.09.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6303, to amend Title V Sewers by amending Section 5.05.1010 definitions and 5.10.150 pretreatment.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Motion to waive third.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6304, to amend Title IV Health and Sanitation of the 2015 Municipal Code by amending Chapter 4.20 Animal Control.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Motion to waive third.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 6302, to amend zoning map by reference in section 15.02.070 by rezoning the south 145 feet of the east 682.15 feet of the southwest quarter of section 107444 from A2 Parks, Estates, and Agricultural District to R3 Low Density Multifamily Residential District as defined in chapter 15.10.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Is there discussion?
I will abstain on this as I have on the last two votes.
Other discussion? Roll call?
Head,
Aye.
Ringenberg,
Aye.
Sandow,
Aye.
Watson,
Aye.
White.
Abstain.
Resolution 17-205, to approve and authorize the execution of an amended development agreement originally authorized on or about July 11, 2016 by Resolution 16-173.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Jay, do you want to come up and address some of the questions I sent you in an email after the study session? If you'd like, I can ask you the questions if you don't have them. But.
I'm Jay Noddle, 2285 South 67th Street in Exarban Village. When we were here, pardon me, when we were here in August, I think it was August 28th, when you approved the parking garage, what I didn't realize is that the sort of cleanup amendment that you have before you tonight for the redevelopment agreement for the office building, I did not realize that needed council approval, or I wouldn't have told you on August 28th we were done. This is a cleanup amendment adjusting the dates based on the schedule as we go forward, now that all the approvals are in place for Broadmoor, for the parking garage, and then with this amendment, the development agreement for the office building will be complete.
And I just tell you that we gave Jay that indication, I think, at the meeting that we didn't need council approval, and then as Dick and I discussed it later on, we thought it made sense to bring it before the council.
So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just why such the delay? July 16 was 15, 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was talked about long before we voted on July 16th. How come 18 months, there was no construction? I mean, when it was approved back then, or why were the plans take so long to get in? And the agreement was December 31st of this year, and you start in January 1, 18. So why is it being delayed, I mean, by exponential amount?
Well, good question. Happy to answer it. I'll do my best. First, let me say that no one is more disappointed that we haven't started than we are.
I believe that.
So, having said that, the way the progression went, the first thing that the council took action on was the redevelopment agreement for the office building. In order for the office building to go forward, we felt as prudent investors that the apartment project needed to be approved so that we weren't building an office building out there by itself. It's one thing to build apartments when there isn't an office building. It's different to build an office building without the apartments there. That's kind of the nature of a mixed-use project. So you may recall it took quite a while to get the Broadmoor agreement in place. Then the next piece was to get the parking garage in place, and that took a while, and now that's in place. So this whole thing has slipped. Along the way, the office building has been, the marketing of the office building has been tested out in the marketplace. And quite frankly, many in the marketplace didn't believe us. They said very simply, there's been other projects proposed for the Playland Park property, and nothing's come to fruition. How should we believe you? Why should we believe you? And I said, because it's us. We haven't been here before. And they said, well, you're going to have to do a little bit better than that. Prove it. So we've been working in the marketplace for quite a while. Our lenders, our initial lenders for the project, had a similar attitude that they wanted to see more pre-leasing activity completed than has been completed. But subsequent to that, we've now got a financing commitment in place with a different set of private requirements. Broadmoor's under construction. You've approved the parking garage, and so now we can get started. And I don't know if you've noticed, since the hearing, I believe on the 28th of August, and I know you were here by phone, we have started to get, our contractor has been given a notice to proceed. They have started very recently to put some equipment on the site. I think next Monday, fencing goes up, silt fencing goes up. I think the following Monday, on the 9th, they're going to do some auger cast piling testing. That's a type of foundation system. I think the job site trailers will be on the site maybe by the 5th. And by 2 weeks from today, weather permitting, we expect to be going full speed. So that kind of answers your question, and it gets you current as well.
You think because they're with ConAgra obviously leaving, there's a bunch of office space over there? You think that's part of why the leasing? I mean, 65,000 square foot's a big area to fill.
Well,
And is it still just Iowa West that is committed at this time?
You know, we have a lot of other negotiations underway, and it would be kind of irresponsible on my part to name who they are.
I understand that.
But what I can say is we've been at this, I've been doing this for a long time, and there are certain submarkets where the real estate community and business leaders need a little more proof. The best proof we can give anyone that we're serious is to start construction. That is the very best proof. That means those that are investing and taking the risk have their necks out on the line. It also means the project lenders have their necks out on the line. And so that, fortunately, that's where we are now. As it relates to the marketplace, actually the office market in the metropolitan area is about as tight as I've ever seen it in my entire career. There are surpluses that happen as a result of vacancies, which happen for a whole host of reasons. In the case of the ConAgra campus, the first building, they've now secured 2 tenants for the first building, which have been announced, and that building really gets filled up. I believe ConAgra's underway with negotiations for the redevelopment of the campus, with a development firm for the redevelopment of the campus. And I don't know for certain, but I don't believe that any additional vacated ConAgra office space really affects what we're doing.
Right. And I'm just looking at the email I sent you to see what else I was asking about.
And thank you for coming over tonight, by the way. We appreciate
I was
it.
planning on being here.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, and I do appreciate you calling me in between too. When you
Guy's always got to be here when you vote on something with his name on it, so I was planning on it.
So again, when did you expect to commence with the construction?
We're scheduled to start auger cast piling 2 weeks from today.
That's
Okay.
exciting.
We got to get our permits back from the city, but the plans are in for review now.
They
and
told us that.
I don't expect
Yeah.
a problem there.
Awesome.
They told us that you're.
We're going to start, folks. We wanted to be here a long time ago. We're here now. A ton of time and financial resources have been invested by all of us, the city and ourselves, Iowa West. So we're ready to go. We just need you to approve this so we can dot a couple i's and off we go, and we'll see you at a groundbreaking.
Exciting.
What other possible roadblocks do you see, or delays, I should say, speed bumps, perhaps more accurately?
I would say weather.
Okay.
Or some kind of materials delays. One thing we watch in times like this is the change in materials availability because of the crises that have taken place in Houston and in Florida and outside the country. But our materials are ordered. Those that we can order this far in advance have been ordered. We did that right after you voted to approve the garage on the 28th. So I don't. There could be a day or a week here or there, but there's really nothing between us and getting going with the pilings now.
Estimated completion date?
End
With,
of 18?
End of 18.
So that would be 1 year out to the day what was penned in the original agreement.
But the original agreement contemplated a move to the start date because it had an outside date for starting. I believe it had an outside date for the first economic development grant, which is the TIF, as you know. I think it had an outside date of December 1st of 2020. These things, whenever a project like this takes place in any community, you work like crazy to get all the agreements in place, to negotiate the construction contract, to buy out the materials for the job, something I know you're familiar with. And the dates are never perfect. We try to come as close as we can, and in this case, we've had kind of unforeseen delays, just the time it took to, quite frankly, get Broadmoor in place. And now we know what the dates are. We haven't changed our durations from start to completion
Right,
or
yeah.
the TIF. It just slips.
Okay.
Just a year later.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we're just seeking some clarification here, because on page 7 of the agreement, it says that developer expects, barring unavoidable delays, minimum improvements will be completed by December 31st, 2017, and you've outlined what you believe were some of those unavoidable delays.
It makes sense to me that we, making certain that all the steps are ready and in the right order, the ducks are in a row, so to speak, and having a project and having that residential piece is really, really important to me too, in my focus. The businesses are great too, don't get me wrong, but the residential piece down there is so exciting. And to see an area, I don't want us to make the same missteps that have occurred in the past where, a lot of commercial will get built and then it will die for lack of other things around it. And one example comes to mind, I won't name, but which is improving itself. But to avoid that to begin with is key. So that it took a little bit more time up front, you're right, is pretty normal, and I'd prefer we did it this way so that it has a good running start to begin with. So that makes complete sense to me, and so I appreciate you coming and giving the answers you've given.
In council communication, it says the amendments are necessary due to unavoidable delays obtaining a sufficient lease commitment to support the construction of a 65,000 square foot administrative multi-tenant leased office building in the Playland Park urban renewal area. So, and I understand you not wanting to release names, but it's not just Iowa West. Do you have an actual commitment, or you have people still just interested?
We have a lot of discussions and negotiations
interested.
underway. And really, the language, the semantics used in what you just read.
Yeah, that's just what I had, yeah.
It's probably a little too much emphasis on lease commitments, but rather, we just, we're your master developer. Let's not forget that. We work for the city, too, to execute this plan. And things happen sequentially. There's a progression to it. And frankly, it just took longer, like I said earlier, to get Broadmoor in place, to get the garage where we needed it to be. You guys were prudent in your scrutiny of the garage. And so now the dominoes have fallen. They've all fallen, and they've fallen the right direction. And that's really the...
And I understand that things happen, and again, construction delays, different things like that. I mean, I understand that. I just wanted to hear from you why it's delayed so much. And so I appreciate you coming, because like I said, at the study session, it was like, well, is anybody here to tell? And you weren't. And not that you needed to be or nobody asked you to be. So not to say, like I said, I appreciate you coming tonight and calling me in between.
My pleasure.
Any other questions for Jay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Deborah Peterson, 215 South Main Street, Council Bluffs, Iowa. I'm not really here to challenge this project, but I'm here to just kind of say my piece on behalf of not only me as a taxpayer, me as a business owner, and my husband and I as business owners, but all the taxpayers of the city of Council Bluffs. This is a major project for the city, and I appreciate the fact that Mr. Noddle and his company have been here. But remember that he told you they are the experts, and they know, and they should know. And that should have happened back in July of 16. There should have been some kind of knowledge imparted at that point as to how long this process was going to take. When the city puts together an agenda that starts out by saying, amended development agreement, has no names, no addresses, no nothing, that becomes quite apparent that there's something that's trying to be kept quiet, maybe slipped through or something. It does not lend itself to transparency in government and giving the public amended information that this is about the River Park or Riverfront development area. And I think that's a problem, because if you don't know what's going on, you can't come and speak to the council or contact the council members ahead of time if you don't know those things. Then if you look at the packet that's submitted of 417 pages of information that you have to download to look at one item, when you look at that, then you find out that it says, well, this is because of unavoidable delays in obtaining sufficient lease commitments to support the construction. Well, Mr. Noddle just told you that's not really the case. And that's fine. If that's not the case, then let's tell the public what the truth is, that the delays are because the apartments didn't get approved as timely as they should have. Whether that's his fault, Broadmoor's fault, the city's fault, I don't know, but it happened, and he's telling you a legitimate reason. He's not telling you up here tonight that it's because of the lease commitments, but that's all your resolution says. And is that an unavoidable delay? I really don't know the answer to that question. But I think that the original agreement was executed in July of 16, and I know from experience in dealing with the city and other developers and other projects, these don't just wake up on June 1st and show up here in July, get voted on. It's a months-long process, so that was being done way before then. And then the fact that they were just here a couple of weeks ago, maybe that's a communication problem, that they thought they didn't have to have council approval. But certainly, I think that someone could have told you at that point, and probably all of us could have just drove down there and said, I don't think this is going to get done by December 31 at the rate we're going here. And so then they didn't mention any delay at that time, so that kind of, again, gives a little question. This afternoon in the building, or in the study session, your development director reported that they had applied for a building permit, and that's great. But I want to remind you that that doesn't assure any construction. That says, I want to do construction, and here's what I want you to approve. And I think we have the property on 24th Street and Veterans Highway to show that permits don't always result in the end project that we wanted, so we don't have any guarantees. The mayor noted this afternoon, as did Mr. Noddle this evening, that there's lots of negotiations going on. Again, we may have a tenant, we may not have a tenant. We don't have the ability to say that right now, and I think that's really important. If there's not lease commitments in this almost 2-year process, and they don't have those today, are they going to be able to get those? I don't know. There's a lot of office space available in this community and in the community across the river. And I think that there's a lot of considerations and examples that you need to consider when you're doing this and other projects going forward, regardless of the process with this project, but going forward. You know, if Iowa West moves to the riverfront, is that a new tenant? No, that just vacates their current office space. So you're just moving them around. So I would think that the city has, over the years, learned its lesson on this trading spaces things by relocating and incenting Target and Penny's to move from the Mall of the Bluffs. And then we have another vacant property. So trading spaces among commercial tenants is not, in my opinion, I know the mayor may disagree with me, but it is not, in our opinion, economic development when you're just, moving from one place to the other. And then the post office moves, then we don't know what the post office, if that space is going to go down or what's going to happen with that. So it's just moving around, and that shouldn't be the target of the incentives. And even with the incentives granted to at least 2, if not 3 developers at the J.C. Penney Marketplace, and they've come here with a couple of different ideas, and you've been very receptive to them, we still have a lot of vacant ground down there that has not developed like it was promised to develop. Then we have the plaza at Mid-America Center, built that 14 years ago, and it remains vacant. And last time I was down there, and it's been a while, so maybe they've taken care of that, but still had the dirt floors in there. And then what was it, maybe about a year ago, Iowa West Foundation came to you and promised that they would spend X number of dollars improving that plaza. And I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything happening down that, and I haven't seen anything to move a new business to our city. There was some discussion about other office space that's available and the ConAgra space, and there's plenty of space here downtown. And then I'd also ask, I realize that there's confidentiality in business, but at this point, I think you need to know who those primary targets are that we're negotiating with, that may be interested, that might consider coming here if we prove we have something. Because those people, I understand, are a lot of people who are already occupying commercial space in this city. So once again, are we looking at actual trading spaces, or is the city considering bringing new business? Are we targeting new business with new jobs to bring new people to our community to support this kind of project? You have made substantial financial commitments on behalf of the city that require you to have all the information you need before you make a decision. The mayor always refers to his banking history. That's what this is. This is business. You're basically the bankers in this situation when you're helping finance the project, and therefore you need to know what's going on. Tonight, you took no action on the offer of an individual on a property on Franklin and Bennett because for X number of weeks you've been asking for additional information, for plans. What is he going to do? And he's provided you nothing, so appropriately you said, we're done with you. If you want to come back later, as you said, it could rise again if he answers your questions and bring those to you. So although that could be a fabulous project, you have no idea. We have no idea until he brings the information and has some guarantees. And I think that's a place where we need to learn from our past and have some guarantees going forward, because in this case, you don't want to end up with a 700 and something space parking garage and a vacant office building and some nice apartments. Then that's if that's what you don't want to end up with before you make these approvals. I respect Mr. Noddle and the developments he's been involved in, and he tells you he's the expert, and I want you to hold him to that. I think all the taxpayers want you to do that. It's important that he has a timeline, and I think he's done a great job tonight of outlining that for you and providing that information. remember too, and I don't know for sure if I'm exactly correct on this because I didn't have the original agreement in hand, but if the minimum assessment value goes into play on January 1 of 2018, I don't think that the cash out for those taxes is actually paid by the property owner until September of 19.
Correct.
And so that still gives them 18 months that they can, fudge before they're actually out-of-pocket cash on the tax issue. So I think you need to figure out all of the information here, so you ask yourselves, is there really a need for this space? Can we really fill it with qualified tenants, or are we just going to be trading spaces? Or are we simply funding a new office space for Iowa West Foundation with 700 vacant parking stalls for you to maintain? I don't know what you have in place for a guarantee if something happens, like what happened at 24th and Veterans or at any other project. I don't think there's a guarantee in place for the plaza at Mid-America Center if nothing gets done. I don't know what the default rules are. So I'm just asking you on behalf of myself, my husband as a taxpayer, and every other taxpayer in the community, make sure you're making an informed decision, make sure the guidelines and the checkpoints are there, and that you're holding those people to those developments. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. So the default, not a negotiation, I'm just talking, but the default is that if the building doesn't get built, there is no TIF dollars exchanged. And so there is nothing ventured, nothing gained. You named a lot of projects, Target and Penny's. Frankly, it doesn't take much business acumen to look at the Mall of the Bluffs and know that there's nothing going on out there. And there was no direct incentive to either one of those businesses. We put in the sewer for the Metro Crossing. We did give TIF money to the developer on 24th Street. But had we forced those businesses to stay in the Mall of the Bluffs, my guess is that they'd be closed today and they'd be gone. And so one of the things that this council does is create tax base that then helps offset the taxes of taxpayers like you and your husband, and that gets paid when buildings are built. Now, I get it. Somebody moves across the street, and that doesn't increase the businesses. But then typically, if they move into new, better quality conditions, they are in a growth mode, and somebody steps into theirs, and it's a ladder effect that helps everybody. But it's kind of the, no offense made, but when you get up, you throw everything against the wall and hope that something sticks. And when you have 40 comments, it's tough to keep up and to answer them. But those are my general. With a TIF, if nothing gets built, no taxes get paid, no taxes get rebated back to the developer, and so that's the big fail-safe. And
What happens with the parking garage and the city's responsibility for that? I mean,
100% guaranteed by the Iowa West Foundation. No risk to the taxpayers at all.
Okay, so am I?
Until the 20 years, then it's ours.
Then it's ours, yeah.
At the end of 20 years.
So am I understanding correctly that, just say that the building doesn't get built, the office building doesn't get built, and the city goes ahead with the parking garage and it's built. So Iowa West is paying 100% of the cost of that?
Yes.
Taking care of it and maintaining it for 20 years? Or are we going to maintain it for 20 years?
Well, we have a lease arrangement with the developer for 20 years, and so we wouldn't own it day one.
Right. How much money would we pay in 20 years? Over the 20 years?
14.
If the office building gets built, zero.
Okay. If it does not get built?
Zero.
Iowa West pays
100%.
100%. And at the end of 20 years, then we just own it, and then that's our responsibility going forward,
That's
which
correct.
is what your agreement was anyway.
Yep.
Okay, well,
the
that's a good
document says.
guarantee then. I think that helps the situation somewhat in terms of not being stuck with something. But I hope the whole development, I think all the taxpayers hope the whole development goes.
Deb, this is a development, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm at meetings all the time in Omaha where people say that Iowa has more favorable business climate. Nothing could be further from the truth, I don't think. But it is a project that's enviable throughout the metropolitan area. They talk about it in meetings that I go to all the time. What are you guys doing over there that we're not doing?
Well, I hope they
And I
just
want to
sign
thank
on
the
the
Now
line.
Group for helping make that happen, because Jay's right. There is a history down there. We sold it to a developer. iOS bought it back. It's been a long, I've been here 22 years. It's been 22 years working on that deal, I think, so.
I've been here for all
And
the-
frankly, not that I could give out any, just general information. Frankly, even in Nebraska, in its political structure and in its legislature, there is significant envy that you won't get them to admit it publicly. I'll give you that. But the significant envy behind the scenes, and they're looking to tailor their laws. I don't think anything will pass anytime soon, but because they are concerned about what we're doing and that we have the upper hand over Omaha, which we do. We have a head start on them on the develop of the riverfront. Theirs, they just cemented over the old lead smelting, Zarco. That is the least expensive. It's still expensive. It is the least expensive way to remediate, quote unquote, the lead that's in the soil, several feet deep there on their side of the river. Our side of the river, we have beautiful natural scenery, and we are developing buildings on it. They're going to have to remove all of that cement and then remove several feet of lead. And all of that event, which I believe they will do because they're a dynamic city as well, but we have a head start of years on our side of developing it. And they've noticed, trust me, they've noticed, because they're looking at targeting towards trying to get their side to catch up right next to us. So it's an enviable position to be in when, when I go to meetings and people ask, so, hey, what's going on in Council Bluffs? I'm not used to that, commuting as I do to Lincoln, getting asked about development in Council Bluffs, but it happens once or twice a week now. And, people are noticing, and I know there have been things in the past that haven't worked out. Sometimes that happens, but you have to have the courage to try. I had a lot of reluctance about that cold storage thing. I'm not going to say I told you so, but on that one, I think you do your homework. And here, I've had criticisms as part of the process. Remember last summer we got into it a little bit at one point, so it's not like I'm saying everything is 100% how I do it, because we're all different. We do things differently. But on the whole, we've got the best developer in the metro area. I believe that. I see the work they do throughout our metro area. We've got financing for it. We've got that residential piece, which will keep. That was what I was alluding to earlier. I'm sure you noticed that residential piece is key so that we don't replicate what unfortunately had happened at the MAC. You have that critical nexus of life and the critical mass of individuals there willing to live there and work there and invest there, so that businesses are willing to take that chance and come there into a Class A office space, which we really don't have much of. And it'll be right on our riverfront. Taking a little bit extra time to make certain all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that we have all those commitments in place. Is there a guarantee? No, there's no guarantee on this side of life. But I really think there's nothing else we could do to make this more likely to succeed. I agree. I take wholeheartedly your point that we have to do our job of oversight and keep taking a look at it and asking tough questions. I think we're doing that, and I think it's moving forward. But I encourage you to keep. I know you will keep an eye out to it and give us the questions, because we're not always going to see it, and that's why we depend on you and other people who are interested to point things out to us. But I'm comfortable at this point that I think we're on track.
What I'd like to tell you is I am aware of some businesses that are looking there. I'm aware of travel that has taken place to meet with companies from outside of Council Bluffs to consider locating there. I will tell you that when you say you hear that it's businesses that are going to be moving from another location in Council Bluffs, well, this is what I would tell you. Yes, there are companies that would be moving from another location in Council Bluffs that were going to move to Omaha because we didn't have any Class A office space to offer them. So you know, economic development isn't just about bringing new business, it's about expanding and keeping the businesses that you have and keeping them from relocating to another community. And you have to provide those facilities or they're leaving. And so you're absolutely right. I think you will see companies that were going to go to Omaha that didn't know this building was going to go in that will consider relocating there. I'm glad that we have an alternative to offer them so that we don't lose them in our community. But I absolutely know for a fact that companies are being talked to outside of our community to locate there. Absolutely, you have to keep confidentiality on that, and I understand why it is. I don't know the name of the companies. I only know it as a project name from the Economic Development Committee, but it is happening. And I also wanted to say that J.C. Penney's owns their property and they were not incented to move there. The marketplace did get incentive to put the marketplace in. J.C. Penney's left on their own, and that was after trying very hard to stay at the Mall of the Bluffs, who would not work with them. You know, a lot of backlash. I see a lot of this backlash about how the city council, I was not on the council when these things happened, the city council caused the death of the mall. But if you talk to those merchants that were in those locations who wanted to expand, who needed to expand for their businesses, and the owners at that time would not work with them, there was a lot more to the story at that time. It was in the newspaper at that time. The council's not solely responsible. The city's not solely responsible for the failure of the mall. And I see that a lot, and I think people forget, and I think it's easy enough to remind yourself by going online and pulling the articles up in the Nopperell. They truly are businesses that wanted to stay there and couldn't because they wouldn't work with them. And we don't want to be that community. When we can do something to promote Class A office space, and I understand you have office space that has been difficult to lease. I get that, but that's not the same type of office spaces being built here. There's a lot of office space over in the bank building, but it's old, it's dated, there's small cubicle spaces that aren't going to accommodate large companies. And I would also say that Des Moines is proving this, and you're seeing the way they're developing. This generation of people coming out of college, they want to live, work, and play in one area. They want to walk to work. They want to walk to the restaurant for dinner at night. This development was very well thought out to accommodate getting corporations to consider locating there because they're looking for a different lifestyle for their employees, and they know in order to attract those employees to work for them and stay in Iowa and not graduate from Iowa State and move to Seattle, they have to provide that atmosphere. They're not going to do it. There's such a bigger picture with this development that goes well beyond an office building. It's a lifestyle that we have not been able to afford in Council Bluffs to give to people, but we also see it happening on the 100 block. Those apartments, I got beat up terribly over those apartments, and now all of those people are going and going to those bars and restaurants and eating because it's an atmosphere that people want. I've seen no negative effects from those apartments going in, and they were successful enough. There's more being built, so.
Thank you.
You can go.
Thank you.
You want to talk? You can go.
If I just briefly mention on that point, I don't think I'm spilling any secrets because it was known to, you know, my into high school through college job in the summers and Christmas breaks was working at Penny's when they were at the Mall of the Bluffs. And I remember being there, and that was their best performing store. It was very crowded. You might remember that was the biggest complaint we'd always get from customers. You know, the racks are really close together, and they wanted to expand, and the mall wouldn't let them. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't let them do it. And at Penny's, you know, it was the best performing store in the entire region based in Kansas City, and I think it's still in that region. But in any event, per square footage, it was the best performing store.
I think it may still be the best.
I think it still is. I've heard that, but I don't know that to be a fact. It was at the time. It's a very well frequented. It feels like an ad. I'm not getting paid, I swear. My point is that I remember watching management try to work with the mall, and I remember employees being asked on occasion. We would get asked, you know, about it, and customers as well, and they weren't willing to work with it. And I know for a fact too, because I have friends in fairly high up in Target management in Minneapolis, that the Target also wanted to keep that open and actually have two open in town. It didn't want to move, it wanted to have a second. But in neither case was the then owner of the mall, which eventually became, I think to date, still the largest bankruptcy in American history, no longer owns it. Nor does it own many malls in the country, because it made the mistake of sitting on its assets, not growing, and whatever, and not it wasn't even on purpose, I swear, and not growing, and not being willing to take that chance, and they lost good tenants like that, and so that's why that mall died. And the other thing is I don't know if folks really want to live in a world, I don't, where we have such control over business, we can tell them exactly where they can go. I don't want to live in a world where government does that. I think we can help create the conditions and create the infrastructure, but in the end, where businesses go and what stays open and what dies is where you spend your money. And that's how it's supposed to be in this country. And I think our goal is to try to have as many of them stay here or come here, rather than going elsewhere. And we don't do that by doing what we did 50 years ago, because people move now, and they will.
John Jerkovich, 535 West Broadway, Suite 100. Appreciate all the comments from everybody. I've been in the community over 34 years. I respect Deb a lot, and Jay Noddle and his company. And I think what Jay's doing is fantastic for our community. It's not something that my firm or any local firms could do. Him taking the time to come over from Omaha, he has plenty on his plate, and I really think this is a wonderful project. There's a lot of risk in things like this, and he's taken it. The business takes a course. I mean, Nate, like you're saying, the mall, the Bluffs, was a general growth problem. They didn't reinvest in the community. And more importantly, this is probably one of the key pieces of property to Council Bluffs. I mean, this property opening up like this as a gateway to our community is going to be something really proud of. And, you know, TIFs and things such as that are the nature of our business. You know, I mean, people, they can be abused, but in most cases, in things like this, I don't believe they are. And I think that I just want to commend him for coming over here and taking his time and investing in our community. And I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be a great project. And I appreciate all the comments, the concern, good and bad, because it is a risky project. Nothing's for sure in our business, but I just, as a real estate developer and part of this community, I just want to thank him for coming over here and behind the project.
Can they talk? Oh, she's gonna do it maybe. Or do you want, yeah, he wanted, is that okay?
Well, I know the hour's
Let's
kind of
ask
getting
for it.
late. I'm a stickler for accuracy, so I'd like to just go on record with a couple corrections. First, the development agreement that was approved in 2016 was never signed. I think you mentioned it had been executed. That's not an accurate statement. It was approved, and then the next task was to go get the Broadmoor deal done. The reason the Broadmoor deal delayed primarily was because you changed planning directors. I think that was Don Gross's title. So in the middle of the negotiations, Don left. I guess I got to be careful, but it was a happy ending, I guess, for him. And the city's got a new person in that role. That was really the primary reason for that delay. With respect to the parking garage and risk associated with the parking garage, the garage will not be built unless the office building is built. There's no trigger that can build that garage without the office building. So for the community, there won't be a garage there without an office building. In terms of the risk associated with the office building, we're kind of conservative. Our projects look pretty cool, I hope. They're pretty widely accepted. But this is a big risk. We're talking about a lot of money. We're talking about a firm's reputation. We're ready to build the building now. We're ready to take the risk. Yes, the leasing is a factor, and you are absolutely correct. There has been a number of meetings. We've traveled. Both the state and the local economic development folks have been involved. And the fact of the matter is there will be some local tenants that relocate, primarily because they're growing. And it's important for Council Bluffs to have facilities to allow for that growth. If someone else had developed or was developing comparable facilities, we might not be here. Frankly, if there was a local development company that wanted to, I kind of think we're a local development company. We've built about 15 projects in the state of Iowa, all across the state, mostly smaller communities. So I think we're local. But in any case, if the development community, others in the development community had undertaken a project like this somewhere else in the area or this site, we probably wouldn't be here. But there is an opportunity. I just want to reiterate our thanks to all of you and others in the community, because projects like this don't happen unless the whole community is involved. That's what happens. That's how it works. So again, I want to thank everyone, but I just wanted to be clear, there is no risk to this garage getting built without the office building. And your statements about the cost to the city are true. There's a guarantee from Iowa West that covers a shortfall every month of every year all along the way. And it's not the city's until you get to the end. And then at that point, it is the city's responsibility to maintain the garage. And should the garage get built, the city has the responsibility for maintaining only the portion of the garage that's not assignable to the office building. And that doesn't mean as the office building leases up, that means a certain percentage of the garage is attributable to the first office building, and a certain percentage will be attributable to the second building and the third building. And so each time a building is built, the city's responsibility for maintenance is reduced. Anyway, just wanted to go on record with those things.
Like you said, there's a process and steps to all this. So, we approved, the council approved the parking garage last, the 28th or whatever, I don't know the date, last council meeting
That's
you were
correct.
here. We approved it. Will it not get built until the tenants, I know you said materials are ordered. Is it not going to be built until you have more than Iowa West that lease is in place?
The garage will be built simultaneous to the office building. We've got to have the parking done when the building is done.
Okay.
What I was saying is there isn't a possibility that the garage would be built, ever be built, without the office building.
Right. And
That won't happen.
No,
The
I get what
statement
you're
was
saying, but-
made that she was concerned that the garage could be out there and on its own. Well, that's not going to happen.
right.
Because it can't happen that way.
Right, and you had told us if we didn't approve the parking garage, you weren't going to build the office building. So I
correct.
understand that. But are you going to build the parking garage and the office building with just the one tenant, or are you going to wait to start construction until you have the tenants in
We are
place?
starting the office building and the garage immediately.
As soon as the plans are approved
That's
from the
correct.
city.
That is correct.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, like you said, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, whenever the plans are approved.
Weather,
Yeah.
From the city. With just Iowa West commitment.
You can't have an office building out there without the parking.
No, I
The
understand
parking
what you're
takes a
saying.
little, doesn't take quite as long to build.
Sure.
So the office building will start first, but the parking garage is going to come right after it, and they'll both be under construction at the same time.
And finish 20.
At the same time.
Other questions for Dave?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks, Jay.
Anyone else? Anyone from the council? And do we have a motion?
We have a motion and a second.
Just checking. All those in favor signify by
Is
saying
there-
aye.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I agreed with a couple of things that Mr. Watson was saying. He said that government shouldn't be telling people where to go. And boy, howdy, I'm all in favor of that. And hoping that
I
begins
had a lot
soon.
of puns unintended, didn't I?
He also said that we've done everything possible to support this project, we being the council. And that's true. We have invested a great deal of treasure in this project to prepare the ground to make it ready for development. It's why we've asked before prospects of this going forward and whether or not we have sufficient number of tenants. And I'm in favor of moving forward with this, principally because we've already made such a substantial investment. And I think it would be foolhardy to walk away from that level of investment. However, I do continue to be troubled by whether or not this project will ultimately succeed, because frankly, the place where we are with filling these office structures with finding tenants is pretty much identical to where we were back in the summer of 16. I remember being invited to individual meetings attended by Mr. Noddle and the mayor, and I asked the exact same question about lease negotiations. And the response I received was virtually word for word with what we received earlier this evening. So we really haven't progressed any in that time. So I continue to be concerned, but I will support this from the standpoint of I think we need to see this through and hope for the best.
Other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-206 to assess weed abatement costs against property owners to the county treasurer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-207, assessing removal of solid waste nuisance from private property or public right-of-way for the removal deemed an emergency.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-208, authorizing the mayor to execute an Iowa Department of Transportation Agreement Number 2018-4-008 in connection with the I-29 interstate improvements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-209, granting preliminary plat approval for a 19-lot residential subdivision to be known as Whispering Oaks Subdivision Phase 2, legally described as being that part of the southeast quarter, northeast quarter of Section 574-43.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
Just to say that we discussed this previously with respect to the other planned development adjacent to this one. At that time, I suggested, again, the need for a traffic study in the area. The other project concerned Franklin as well as Valley View. This puts a little bit more pressure still upon Valley View and will probably involve a little bit more traffic along Longview. Again, I think work is needed with the county to look at the traffic flows, the speed, the intersections, the need for stop signs or stoplights, because I fear with the number of bus stops and the speed and the density of traffic that this will catch up in a bad way. And I would rather get out in front of this now than wait for a very serious accident.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-210, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with HGM Associates, Inc. for engineering services in connection with the CBIS Segment 4 sewer relocation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-211, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Black and Viec Corporation for engineering services in connection with the Cicada Upgrade Phase 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Resolution 17-212, granting preliminary plat approval of a 39-lot residential subdivision to be known as New Horizon Subdivision Replat 2, being a replat of Lot 2, New Horizon Subdivision Replat 1.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Resolution 17-213, to append a planned residential overlay and adopt the associated development plan for the proposed New Horizon subdivision replat 2.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there discussion?
I just want to make the general observation that, this evening we've had before us plans not only for good middle-class housing on the east edge of town, but also good housing still towards the east tonight as it so happens, but a little bit slightly more centrally located for folks of a certain age, facility.
What are you looking this way for?
I'm going to be in trouble tonight. I'll just not look at anyone in particular when I say that. I want to get to that point probably sooner than I imagine it'll happen. But places, because we have a lot of folks at different stages of their life. Places good quality. I'm not looking at anyone. Everybody needs a nice, decent place to live, and ones that hopefully are affordable, so that folks can afford to live there in dignity and have a good quality of life. And it's another good sign in our community that people are building again, and they're choosing Council Bluffs. And so I just want to point out 3 of the resolutions tonight, at least 3 of them, or ordinances deal with new housing, and it's nice to see that again. And it's a good sign in our community's vitality.
And the developer of Whispering Oaks says that he thinks that the reconstruction of the interstate's going to have a huge impact on residential housing in Council Bluffs. It's going to be so easy and convenient to get to Omaha, and so I think the future's bright.
I think so too, and I think the East Beltway is going to make a big difference too. That's going to open up a lot of development property, and I think that hopefully we'll see that market continue to grow. So,
Anything else?
Wait to vote still. Oh, yeah.
Vote.
We have a motion and a second.
That's what I meant. When anything else? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Applications for permits and cancellations, 9A liquor licenses 1 through 8.
Motion to approve 9A, 1 through 8.
Second.
Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, any citizens requesting to be heard?
None received?
Anyone from the audience?
They're all quickly leaving.
Are you leaving,
We're all
Bruce, or are
leaving
you
us
going to the
quickly.
podium?
Mr. Kelly will be speaking to us, I imagine.
Already
Yeah,
have his
everybody
papers.
wants to leave quick. Bruce Kelly, 864 Mackenzie Avenue, bike trail. And don't worry about pennies. My wife just got her new card today and an extra 10% off.
Anyone else? Anyone from the council?
yes, I would just like to ask everybody, I'd put a Facebook post out, and I think it got reposted to the Health Department's Facebook. There was a Red River Waste Company employee who was severely injured, life-altering injuries that will definitely change his life. And I've asked everybody, if you would please put a get well card, even if it's raining, put it in a plastic bag and put it out on your garbage can. I would really like to see this young man get a lot of cards so that he knows that the city council is thinking about him, that we care what happened to him. So kind of calling it Mission Mario. If you could send Mario a card, put something out for him.
That's
Thank you.
Great idea. Thanks for that.
Yeah, and I saw that on Facebook and shared.
No, it was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, seeing no one, we're adjourned. Have a good and safe week.
Thanks.